The desert winds howled across the barren land, carrying dust and the smell of dry sage. In the little town of Redstone, where whiskey flowed stronger than water, everyone had heard the same words again and again, spoken by three women who lived on the edge of town. "We can't live without a man." It wasn't just something they said. It was what they believed. A bitter truth born from pain, from loss, and from the weight of the Wild West itself. The three women, Clara, Ruth, and Emily, were widows. 2 years ago, their husbands had been buried alive in a mine collapse, and since then, the women had fought just to survive. Clara, the eldest with lines etched deep into her face, often told the townsfolk, "A woman's hands can cook, wash, and sew, but they can't build fences or tame wild horses." Ruth, strong but weary, added, "Without a man, land dies. Without a man, a family starves." Emily, the youngest, only 20, spoke in a voice that trembled, "Without a man, there's no future." The town believed them. Other men offered help, but it came with a price: marriage, favors, or surrender. Alone, desperate, the three women clung to their words like a shield: "We can't live without a man." But beyond the valley lived someone who didn't believe in such things. His name was Daniel Hayes. A rancher, a loner, a man who had built his world with his own 2 hands. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a scar that cut across his cheek like a reminder of an old war. Some whispered he'd once been a gunslinger. Others said his family had been taken by raiders. Whatever the truth, one thing was certain: Daniel needed no one. He herded cattle alone. He fixed fences alone. He lived alone. When he rode into town, people fell silent, whispering, "That man's a ghost. He doesn't need a soul." And one morning, when he passed by the three women hauling broken barrels from the well, Clara whispered bitterly, "He looks strong, but even he will fall someday. No one lives without someone else." Daniel stopped, turned his sharp eyes toward her, and said quietly, "That's where you're wrong. Strength doesn't come from who you depend on. It comes from who you choose to be." The women laughed. They didn't believe him, but the West has a way of testing every belief. Weeks later, the storm came. Dark clouds rolled across Redstone. Fences collapsed, cattle scattered, crops drowned, and the little farm the three women kept was almost ruined. Their barn roof crashed down. Wolves circled at night, hungry and bold. They begged the town for help, but the men they turned to asked for something in return: marriage, ownership, control. Desperate, Clara marched into the saloon, her boots striking the floor. She found Daniel sitting in the corner, sipping whiskey, watching the world with steady eyes. "You say you need no one," she snapped. "Prove it. Show us we don't need men either." Daniel leaned back, calm as ever. "I'll help you," he said. "But not by carrying your burdens for you. I'll show you that you can carry them yourselves." And so, the deal was struck. At dawn, Daniel rode to their farm. But instead of fixing things with his own hands, he guided theirs. He showed Clara how to split wood and repair beams for the barn. He took Ruth to the fields, guiding her on the plow until the earth turned rich and dark again. And he taught Emily to rope and ride, to push cattle back into the pen, to fire a rifle without trembling. At first, they failed. Clara's hands blistered. Ruth's back ached. Emily fell from the saddle more than once. Their tempers flared, their spirits broke. But Daniel never stepped in to finish the work. He stood silent, steady, watching them rise or fall. And slowly, painfully, they began to rise. One night, when the wolves came closer than ever, Emily held Daniel's old rifle in shaking hands. The pack snarled at the edge of the firelight. Daniel didn't move. "It's your land," he said softly. "Protect it." Emily swallowed her fear, raised the barrel, and fired a warning shot into the night. The wolves scattered. Her hands still shook, but her eyes burned with something new: courage. Daniel gave a small smile. "See, you can." The women's words began to change. Instead of saying, "We can't live without a man," they whispered, "Maybe we can." Word spread through Redstone. The widows were rebuilding, with their own hands, with Daniel's guidance, yes, but not his strength. Men who once circled them like vultures began to grow uneasy. At the saloon, one muttered, "That rancher's poison," filling their heads with pride. Another sneered, "Women who don't need men. That's trouble." But the truth was undeniable. One morning, Clara, Ruth, and Emily rode into town with wagons full of fresh crops, faces sunburned and proud. They walked into the market not as broken widows, but as ranchers in their own right. The town went silent. For the first time, no man dared to offer pity. Later, on the porch of their rebuilt farmhouse, Clara turned to Daniel. "You proved us wrong." Daniel shook his head. "No, you proved yourselves wrong. I only showed you the mirror." Ruth smiled for the first time in years. "Maybe we never needed a man. Maybe we just needed courage." Emily, her voice steady now, added, "We can live without a man, but we'll never forget the one who taught us how." Daniel tipped his hat, mounted his horse, and rode into the horizon, the desert wind swallowing his figure. Behind him, the women stood tall against the dying sun. And in the little town of Redstone, the old words were never spoken again. No longer, "We can't live without a man." From then on, the story people told was different, about the three women who found their strength, and the rancher who defied